Louis, how you doing?
Bonjour, bonjour.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Yeah,
Finally.
glad the week's over. Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the 16th episode of the Six Sessions. Today's guest is someone I've been looking forward to chatting to for a long time now, and not just because of his seductive French accent. Each week, I get to chat to someone who's doing something amazing in the growth space, be that marketing, sales, or CX. Today's guest, he's been a call to arms for better practices across all of them. Undoubtedly, he's smarter than I am, and he's done some pretty cool shit, which hopefully makes me interesting by a mere association. These sessions are supposed to be short and sweet, and they're definitely unfiltered. And today may test that to its limit. This week, it's my pleasure to introduce you to one of my favorite podcast hosts. Favorite podcast. Everyone hates marketers. If you work in marketing, you'll know it. He's had hundreds of guests, all from the top tier of marketing talent: the Ritzons, the Rands, the Patels, the Godins, and even my dear friend Joe Glover. It's refreshingly honest and always thought-provoking, and it's also recently gone through somewhat of a shift. He's a contrarian in his approach, but not just for the sake of it, and he's also a marketer that's proudly learned from his mistakes. I am very excited to introduce you to Louis Grenier. Louis, welcome.
Wow, what a fucking intro. And Joe Glover was on the podcast because he forced me to.
I know, like, people don't seem to understand this about Joe, but he has this like undercover, like he's an asshole, but people just don't see it.
Absolutely. He's so smart in this way. He makes you believe he's a nice guy, but
well, I asked him if there are any difficult questions to ask you, and he came back with, just ask him why he's so lovely. And I was like, Joe, you make me sick sometimes. So
what a dickhead.
So my first question for you is, how do you explain what you do for a living to your mom?
You know the brands that you very much like, you know the products and services that you buy all the time. Well, yep. I help companies like that to be seen as different so that people buy from them, just like you did. Because good marketing is not seen. I like to say that to my mom and to my dad, who likes to ask me all those type of questions as well. Like, good marketing is something that you don't see. It's invisible. You believe that you had free will from start to finish, that you picked the product because you really like it and your friends told you about it. But that's all engineered through good marketing. And I don't mean advertising or communication. I mean marketing, understanding your market, developing the right product, differentiating it, etc.
How did you get into marketing in the first place? I love asking this question. And so you're the 16th guest. 14 of those guests didn't start in marketing. They had no plans to go into marketing. And I always find this incredibly interesting. How did you get into marketing?
Yeah, similarly, I wanted to build wind turbines when I was a kid.
Nice.
My mom was into this kind of stuff. And I wanted to work in that. So then I studied, I spent 1 year in Kansas, Wichita, believe it or not, when I was studying mechanical engineering. And then this is when I really discovered like that marketing business was something I was really interested into, because a few of my friends were following that degree, and I was reading their course and stuff. So back when I went back to France, I started to read about it and understanding that it was way beyond what I thought it was. Like, for me, marketing was advertising. And then I understood through reading like Purple Cow by Seth Godin was one of the most influential reading, to understand actually it's much bigger than that. And this is the type of stuff I want to do. I loved the internet from a very young age. I loved the power of it. I was always the first with I bugged my dad to have the fiber when it came out and all of that. Not the fiber that we have now, like the ADSL, you know, the fast internet. And I also love psychology. I always loved understanding people and why they were doing stuff. So that merged quite nicely, you know.
So did you retrain from the engineering, or did you kind of like down tools and go into marketing at that point?
So in true Louis fashion, I quit in the middle of my mechanical engineering degree because I was sick of it. I couldn't stick to it anymore. So I did a 1 year in business. Like, I did a bachelor degree in business and touched upon marketing a tiny bit. But I'm not formally trained into it, but I kind of caught up into that, doing a few stuff here and there. But no, I didn't study marketing as you anticipated.
Yeah. So I've been listening to Everyone Hates Marketers for a long time now. It's like one of those podcasts where I found the first episode and then just immediately tried to soak up as many of them as I could. Just like the guests, the conversations, and it's one of those things that you always learn something from without blowing too much smoke up your ass. But would you talk about being fed up with shady and bullshit marketing tactics? What was the tipping point? Like, was there a cold email or a shitty SMS campaign that tipped you over the edge and you were like, oh, fuck it, I'm going to create a podcast that calls this shit out? Like, was there a tipping point, or was it just, here's an idea, I think marketers will grab onto this, and then you take it from there?
No, it took me years to form that idea. You know, like anything, I think it's easy to see something like that, like a podcast that works out, or a good product or a brand, or for someone that seems to be radically differentiated in some ways, and think they just had this idea. It's far from it. So it took me years to develop this. I'm very contrarian in nature. One of my high school teachers told me I was an intellectual terrorist because I was kept challenging their thinking. And I love that. Like, that's the way I was being able to get noticed by others, by challenging what they were saying, because I desperately wanted attention because I didn't get it from the right people when I was a kid, And so that developed into a defense mechanism and something almost embedded in my brain. So when I started to work in the digital marketing, what I used to call digital marketing, I can tell you about why there's no digital marketing, but we can talk about that in a few minutes. Yeah. I started to be exposed to all of those tactics, like shady SEO, black hat SEO stuff, putting links in the footer and whatever. And I started to develop this, like, hold on, what the fuck is going on here? Like, this isn't what I signed up for. Like, what are we doing this? Questioning it more and more. So it took me years and years to develop something. When I launched my first agency, I started to talk about the dark side and the light side of marketing, for example, touching on that idea a bit, but it wasn't far enough and wasn't formed enough. And it's when I started to talk about it to others. And I did a few Skype calls at the time with a few people I admired, and realizing I wasn't the only one thinking about it. As soon as I started to say things out loud, the idea started to form way better, which is an advice I would give everyone. Like, is to share something with the world, and what comes back helps you to refine your thinking way more. And yeah, so no, it's not just like a brainwave or anything like that. It just took me years and years and years. And when I was ready to record a few conversations with people, I didn't have the title of the podcast or anything like that, and it came later. So it's not a, those kind of movie scene where you're in bed and you wake up, idea, and you write it on a notepad.
You've ruined the magic now. You've ruined the magic. I was like, he definitely woke up one day and he's like, do you know what? This is going to really fucking take off. I'm going to call it this. And it's just like, I'm just going to start calling out the shitty stuff. But it's all right. Like, I can still appreciate the podcast, even though you've ruined it for me. So no such thing as digital marketing. Let's dig into that.
It's bullshit. It's bullshit because that's not what people say. When they buy something, they're not like, oh, now I'm entering the digital world. And so in that digital world, I'm going to make a purchase or I'm going to read something. People don't see it this way. Like, there's no digital versus traditional. There's just, people doing things, thinking specific ways, having specific motivation. And your goal is to understand that and be there in the right moments. And if you start segregating disciplines of marketing and creating buzzwords because you want to sell your stuff, like account-based marketing and inbound and outbound and fucking like all the bullshit you can find around those words, you make it more complicated than it needs to be. Because that's the trick about marketing. It's simple to understand, and it should be. It's just difficult to implement. It's just difficult to do, because the hard work to interview customers, signing surveys, observing them in the wild, understanding why they do stuff, being there when they need it, during those trigger moments that matter the most, all the way to the purchase. That's the toughest part,
So you ex-agency, like you played in the agency landscape for a while, right? So how would you differentiate yourself as an agency if you're moving away from the kind of being channel specific, so like digital or ABM or inbound or HubSpot or Drift, like any of these things that agencies would typically use to differentiate themselves? How would you recommend it? Would you go after like the outcome that you're giving for those particular clients, or like how would you approach that if you're saying that those channels don't exist? And I'm not saying I disagree with you, by the way.
Another buzzword would be conversational marketing, huh?
Yeah.
Which is like has been spoon-fed to like sales leaders and marketers for years, using a lot of like millions of dollars.
Are we going to touch on category creation in a minute?
To create a new category, you know, because let's just anyway. So we can't ask ourselves, how do we take something average for average people and make it remarkable? That's what Seth Godin told me when I first interviewed him, and that blew my mind 4 years ago, because I finally understood why I was so pissed off with marketing, and that's the key. You can't take a shitty product or an average product that targets pretty much everyone or like different people and make it differentiated. What you can do is create a remarkable product from the very start, something differentiated, and then spread the word about it. So for an agency, for example, the radical differentiation formula is to be the only in your category, so maybe the only, I would just say, marketing agency that does that thing or that provide that value or that help you reach that goal for your market, your minimum viable market, right? Yeah. And the intersection of those three things creates this radical differentiation, which makes you unique. And so how do you make an agency radically different? Well, you start with wondering, who am I going to serve? First of all, who are the people I want to serve? Who do I have access to? Who do I love working for? Who has pains, like bleeding neck problems that they need help with? And who has money to pay me? And then you understand that once you focus on the people you seek to serve, the answer to what do I do for them is much easier. But there's a tendency to do the other way around, which is, now I have an agency. Let's try to find people who would like my services, and let's just sprinkle on top some beautiful messaging so that I'm differentiated. So it doesn't work this way. So you need to find out a unique kind of angle, a minimum viable market that you love, that is congruent. It could be, niching down into a specific vertical that is underserved. It could be more psychographic based stuff. Like, for example, for the podcast, mine is for people sick of marketing bullshit. And then, yes, people who tend to be sick of marketing bullshit tend to be overwhelmingly copywriters, strategists, agency owners, freelancers, consultants, senior VPs, stuff like that. But you see, you start with the top, and then you realize, okay, how can I serve them the best way possible? Doubling down on one specific pain, on one specific goal, and do that for them. And sure, let's use words that they understand. And if they all say that they want to do conversational marketing and they feel that's the future, then sure. But it's unlikely that they talk this way. They are more like probably saying, I need more sales, I need more customers, and stuff like that,
So being radically different, or that radical differentiation, well, it sounds much better in a French accent, I have to admit, or standing the fuck out, which is essentially what we're saying. I mean, we're basically going to flirt for the next 20 minutes. I hope you're okay with that. But yes. It's essentially your calling card, that radical differentiation. How did you go from radical differentiation to from everyone hates marketers? So like calling out marketing bullshit to now you're focused on this kind of key terminology. Like, how did that step happen? How did you get into that point?
Great question, because that's something that bugged me for years. So I knew I wanted to do something with Everyone Hates Marketers, the brand, from the very beginning, when I understood that actually that's something people connected with. Because I had tried so many things before that failed. Like, I had my own agency that failed. I mean, so this is the one thing I tried that worked. But I didn't want to just quit and say, hey, quit my job, because I was working for Hotjar most of the time. I was running the podcast, and say, hey, I'm going to become a marketing consultant fighting marketing bullshit. It just didn't feel congruent. It just didn't feel specific. I didn't like it. And I didn't want to do that, make that mistake that I had made before, which is to be for everyone and all of that. And so I took a step back. I took 1 month off. I reread all the books I really like reading on positioning and differentiation, because that was something I was kind of attracted to. And I asked myself, what gives me the most energy? What do I love to do the most? And so I look back at my childhood, at projects that I love doing. I read those books. I re-listened to all the podcast episodes I had recorded that I very much liked. And I started to look at patterns and say, okay, what is the common theme here? And at the start, it was positioning. that I thought I was into. And then I understood, no. What I love to do the most is actually to go against the grain, to zag when others are zigging, just because I can and because it works and people notice it way more and it's much funnier. And I enjoy doing it. I fucking love it. And so Martin Neumeyer, who's the author of Zag, amongst other very good book like The Brand Gap, coined the term radical differentiation. And you might say it might be a bit of a buzzword, but I think differentiation has been around as long as marketing has been around. And so I think it's something that you can count on. It's not there is no technology linked to it, so it's evergreen. And the problem of how do I stand out in a saturated category is just a past problem, a present problem, a future problem. So, and then I saw the light and I was like, hold on a second. The way to fight marketing bullshit is by being radically different. That's the only way, which is to obsess over a specific group of people that you know very well. You design a product and experience that is radically different in one way, shape, or form so that people notice. And then you build fame on top of it. And honestly, that's the summary of all those great conversations I had and all those thoughts and all the projects I was doing for Hotjar and before. So it took me a long time to get at this. And then when I quit my job to go all in with that direction, I changed my profile picture. I try to really have a congruent thing. So the website, the words I'm using, the photos, the way I'm talking to you now, everything feels congruent now because it's me. It comes from within, but it's also solving a real problem. So
now that it's congruent through, like, so your newsletter, your blog, your social, like everything you're putting out has that congruency through it now. Has the audience kind of reacted to that? Like, what's the engagement like? How has that shifted since you've started being congruent?
It feels like riding a wave. This is the feeling that I would encourage everyone to chase, which is what trend or wave can you surf on that is not a fad, I think, yeah. That is not a fad. That you can lean on as something that is moving in society, in your industry, that like really makes people care the most. And that's why it feels like, honestly, since I've been talking about it, it's only been 6 months, mate, that I've doubled down on that. Only been 6 months. It's only been 5 episodes that I'm doing solo, which basically I'm taking a look at past episodes and summarize them and add my spin to it on the radical differentiation. So it's narrower. And I had the luxury to work with clients one-on-one on many industries. I work with like an organic shampoo company, with a web hosting company, and it's so fun. Also get a chance to launch my program, Stand the Fuck Out. And yeah, it feels like people really like it and really connect with it and get it. It's like, boom, like everyone understands that they need to stand out, yet no one, not even experts, will tell you how. And that's the villain I'm going after, which is the best way to explain to you is not telling you what I'm doing. It's telling you what I'm fighting against, which is experts that are writing around the positioning and differentiation as a topic will always tell you that it's so important. It's so like critical to your business success, yet no one will tell you how to do it. They're going to give you examples from Apple and whatever, and Harley Davidson and Disney and Drift, and they'll tell you to create a new category and nonsense like that. But you'll never find any actual recipe. And they will never also tell you that the mindset is the biggest thing, the biggest hurdle. Even if you're a senior VP of marketing in a big company that needs differentiation, it's all in the head first, because you have to fight against your primitive brain to go against some things that you've learned since childhood. So that's what I'm fighting against. I'm really trying to make it accessible because it's such a big problem. And I've never really been satisfied with what people have been telling me on the topic. That's why I'm obsessing over it,
I don't know if you can see the comments, but your new haircut is stirring up a bit of a storm. Joe is trying to take credit for your new style. So you used to run an agency and it
Yes.
didn't kind of pan out, and then you went into kind of like full-time employment, kind of secondary employment with somebody else, and now you've dived back into your own kind of entrepreneurial gig. How is that like? You're kind of like jumping either sides of the fence. Was there like extra nerves the second time you did it, or were you like, actually, I know my shit now. I know where I went wrong before, and here's how I'm going to create a business based on that previous learning? Or was it just like, fuck it, I'm going to try. Let's see where we end up.
Yeah, it's an important point because it goes to mindset as well. So the difference between the first time I launched a business and this time was that I promised myself never again will I launch something without credibility and an audience who cares. And I don't have a massive audience by any way, shape, or form. Like Joe Glover has way more people than I have in my community. But
that's because he's lovely.
Easy though. And the thing was that this time around I felt ready and I felt a push. Like people were asking me, what are you going to do? And they were feeling like I was like things were increasing and listenership on the podcast and whatever. So this time around it felt right. And the other thing is that I do have way more knowledge now and confidence and expertise on the topic. And so there's plenty of mistakes I've not made again, which the main one being specific, like going very tight positioning, going all in one aspect, no compromise, not listening to feedback saying, oh, maybe you should stop swearing. People will trust you more. Like, fuck that. This is who I am. If you don't like it, you don't like it. I know I'm not for everyone. And I say that with clients. I'm like, sorry, I'm going to be super honest with you. I'm very transparent throughout. If you don't like it, that's fine. I'm not for you. And having this confidence now in myself and knowing that I can do it changed a lot. And the other stuff about the mindset is that I trust my future self now. And it sounds a bit weird to say, but I know that no matter what's going to happen, I will, if I fall, I'll stand back up and find a way. I will find a way. I'm very resilient, and so then nothing can happen because I know I will find another way to do what I want to do. So that's the big difference. I was so naive when I did my first company, but again, that's how you learn, right? So I have no regret doing it because I lost 20 grand in savings in like 6 months and all of that, but I have no regret whatsoever. I'm very proud of that.
And then and the proof is in the pudding because you fired up your program, and I saw your outline of like what you made off of the first round of that and how you'd engage in that. So it's true that like if you've got that entrepreneurial spirit, what you lose you can make back. So I think having the kind of the goal to get up and do it, and like if it's something you're passionate about, it is always going to ultimately work. Question from in the comments is, how do you get clients to bite on an idea of trying something new? So many are keen on paper, but not often in practice.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So the best way that I found is to force them to use the first part of what marketing truly is, which is diagnosis, which is you talk to people, to customers, you interview them, you send surveys, you expose the people who are in charge, mainly CEO founders, to see what people are actually saying, and that will also make them change their point of view a lot. When you show them real data, I'm not talking about spreadsheets. I'm talking about actually seeing and listening to what actual customers are saying. It really, really works. It's like an electroshock. The second thing is to really talk about self-limiting belief that they would have, which is, if we stand out and do something new, it's risky. People are going to throw rocks at us and they're going to insult us and whatever. And then you need to ask them, okay, which brands do you admire? Which products do you admire? What type of companies you really like? And realizing that obscurity is the problem of the century. And that if you really want to reach your goal, you're going to have to take risks, mate, or else it's just going to be average. And you don't want that. So the other way will be to test, either you create a fake kind of brand that you can play with on the side with a landing page on a fake door, or you do a launch with a new landing page, or you test it with a few people and see how people react. So at the end of the day, this is what separates the ones who are radically different with the others. It's just the fact that they've tried and they're going for it. It's just what you want, showing examples as well works well of companies that have done that, but you need to believe in it. You need to believe in it. And again, you can't be asked by an owner or CEO to say, hey, we have a shitty product, take it and now market it. That you can't do the differentiation. You can't put lipstick on a pig. You can't do differentiation on top of a shitty product. So marketers, if you're a marketer, you need to have a seat at the table at leadership, in the leadership stage, and tell them, listen, we need to change a few things, and here is the evidence. Now let's go all in.
Jasmina says your Daft Punk episode was fucking gold. Direct quote. So we touched on it briefly. The program that you're running now. So before we go into what that is, one of the questions I'd find interesting. So you are somebody, by your own admission, is you've learned by mistakes. So you learn by doing and kind of adapt off the back of that. What's the biggest mistake you've made from launching the program so far?
Or the Stand the Fuck Out program?
Yeah.
The biggest mistake.
Or biggest
mistake. Biggest mistake is probably to half-assed the launch and doing it basically doing a launch where every morning I would write the email that would need to go at lunch. Something I have a tendency to do. I don't exactly know why, but I tend to really procrastinate to the last minute to do all of those important stuff. And when I'm planning, I'm much more effective. But I struggle to take time to plan. So I think next time around, I'll increase the price, and I will definitely do a proper launch plan weeks in advance.
Makes sense. So tell me about the program. What is it? Who does it help? What's in it? How does it happen?
Yeah, so Stand the Fuck Out is a high-intensity 8-week program for people who want to radically stand out, in particular business owners and senior marketers. It's
what does high intensity mean?
High intensity meaning that I'm not gonna listen to your bullshit for more than 5 minutes on a call or less than a minute. I'm gonna challenge you using radical candor. So I'm gonna show that I care for you, but I'm also gonna challenge you directly because I want you to succeed. So the first lesson is about mindset. Straight away, we talk about self-limiting belief, imposter syndrome and whatnot. And it's really action-based, high intensity in a sense that the assignments that people have to do are real, meaning it's for their own business. It's not fakey, let's feel good about ourselves. It's genuine, intense stuff to do, and it's 5 to 6 hours of work every week. And so it's not for everyone. It requires a time and mental commitment from myself as well, which is why I'm only running it twice a year. And the second cohort is running right now. But I'm thinking, I've been thinking a lot about how do I show up for more people and help more people, because I know that what I'm doing is helping. And I'm thinking right now of launching a kind of a fellowship. I would call it maybe a Stand the Fuck Out fellowship or something like that, which is
nice.
Group coaching only, maybe twice a month, where we just all meet up on a call, and I would challenge you and help you to grow, whether you want to go to a new market, you want to reach a new product, anything that is around radical differentiation, so that I can serve more people. Because this model is limiting, it's 20 people max per cohort, because I want to get to know everyone. But I do receive emails now more and more from people saying, hey, I can't wait until September, or saying I can't afford your one-to-one consulting, which I understand as well. And so if I don't find a way, I might do those people a disservice,
So you're on your second cohort already. What's the impact you've seen from the first cohort? What's the feedback you're getting?
Well, I've used a lot of those testimonials on the actual page of the program that I use verbatim. The page that I've built is really long because the testimonials are super long, because they are not made up, they're real. So the biggest thing that comes over and over again is clarity, which is now they used to be in this dark forest of bullshit with all those stuff and all those thoughts around positioning, differentiation going around, that they don't know where to start, where to go, what channel to use and whatnot. And after the program, they have certainty and clarity about a lot. The market they seek to serve, their true differentiation, how they're going to go about it, what to say to people, what not to say, what to do, what not to do. And it's amazing to talk back to people who took the first cohort 6 months ago and speaking about their experience now and the confidence. I was talking to someone who was a bit lost before joining. She was a content marketer. She didn't really know where to go and whatnot. And now she's the only content marketer for the cybersecurity industry. And she's getting way more requests than she used to. And we got a chance to talk. And she's so energized and so she's so happy. She's overbooked for the next few months. And this is the kind of stuff I love to see, because again, it's just beyond tactic. It's really about the mindset, confidence and whatnot. So that's a quick example, but it's really clarity comes back a lot.
So you're coming back to your podcast as well. So you had a winning formula from the outside looking in, a winning formula. You get a known marketer, interview them, great insights, and kind of people listen. That was pretty much the outside format. Now you've changed to more of insight driven, and it's driven by you. So like solo episodes, you talking about different episodes, like the Daft Punk episode just got mentioned, the positioning and the kind of the category creation episode, like things like that. What made you want to shift across, and like what have you seen like the change in the back end? So like how has the audience kind of reacted to that? And also like when you were talking about when people are worried about making a change, like you get that feeling, shit, people are going to throw rocks at me. Did you get any rocks thrown at you after you changed a winning formula?
Yeah, this butterfly in your stomach feeling is something you need to chase and actually go for. If you start being scared about potentially doing something, it means that there is something there that you need to push. And so, yeah, I was afraid of doing solo episodes. So those solo episodes are me looking back at all the episodes I really enjoy and making sense of them for the listener, because I've been victim of my own content. I've been falling into and starting drowning into a whirlwind of content of my own creation, where I almost forgot what I learned from those people. I felt the need to look back. And I asked myself, okay, if I feel the need to look back, then listeners are probably the same, or some of them at least. That's the first reason. And the second reason is also because to achieve congruence and to make sure that everyone understands that Louis now helps you to fight bullshit through radical differentiation, I felt the need as well to go all in with that as well on the podcast. I could have created a second podcast and all of that, but then that would have been noise and it wouldn't have been the same. So I felt the need to do it. And yeah, I was scared, man. But that's the way it should be. Some people sent me emails saying, I wasn't too sure about your format, but actually it works really well. And look, it works for me. I like it. I learned by doing it. I learned stuff by doing it. And I'm not going to do it forever. I will come back to interviewing people. But I think it's producing those episodes for me helps me to form new ideas as well and to develop them further. Like, for example, the category creation is bullshit episode helped me to really crystallize my thinking on it. And now I can talk about it way better than before because it wasn't fully formed. So it's not easy for me to do. I don't get super energized writing. I get better, like energized by having conversation with smarter people than me, like you. But I forced myself to do it because I learned through it, and it crystallized a lot of thinking, a lot of stuff I had in my head for years.
Nice. Armand's got a question for you. Would you rather interview marketing leaders about their creative process or interview creative artists, for example, musicians, about their marketing process?
That's a fantastic question, Armand, and it's good to see you here. Actually, more and more the latter. So interviewing creative artists, because that's something that we make, like marketers tend to make this mistake a lot, which is they look into their industry and their category and they obsess over it and they forget about the rest. But when you think of radical differentiation, people who stand out and brands who radically stand out from the rest in a category, artists are truly, people who've done that for centuries, right? And I love to talk to people who think they're not marketers because they don't talk about the bullshit we talk about, like account-based marketing and inbound. No, they get it because they think about first principles. And honestly, there is a bit of an art to radical differentiation when it comes to having a feel for this is the angle we should go for, and that takes a bit of time to develop. You need to do it for a long time, and artists do that, So I'm glad you're asking this question, Armand, because that's my thinking for season 3 of the podcast. So season 1 was 4 years long. Season 2 is going to be, I don't know how long, the solo episode. Season 3 might be interviews with people who don't consider themselves at all marketers, but have been radically differentiated by doing the right way of doing marketing.
If you look at like most art that stands out and like that is notable, and you think of an artist that you appreciate, there is a contrarianism to the way that they are positioning things. So it falls neatly into what you're talking about in the radical differentiation. I'd just like to point out that, living proof that Joe is an asshole. He has just put on there that I am not smarter than you. But Joe, if you tuned in at the beginning when you were supposed to, you would have heard me say that I was hanging out with Louis on the basis that he is smarter than me. And he was referencing the fact that that's what he does on his podcast. So there you go, Joe, you are an asshole.
Yeah, you're an asshole, man. Someone asked, did working with Hotjar influence my positioning with everyone else marketers? So working with Hotjar enabled me to practice my craft when it comes to the idea of positioning. And so I got lucky to be able to work on the repositioning of Hotjar. I was on my own, but I did a lot of it. I did a lot of diagnosis. I obsessed over our users for so long that I became the person inside who knew a lot about it, and known inside to be like, okay, they know a lot. And the marketing team inside was known to be the people who knew a shit ton about our users, which is rare. Usually they don't. So what influenced me was the work I've done and practicing launching stuff. Like we launched a podcast called The Human Strike Back, which didn't really survive for that long for internal reason. We launched this virtual event that was only 5 minutes per talk, 5 talk per day for 5 days. Relaunched Hotjar to be the to position it against traditional web analytics tools. A lot of that. So that practice really enabled me to realize I'm good at this. It gets results. I enjoy doing it. But Everyone Hates Marketers started before I joined Hotjar. And the reason why I got inside Hotjar is because I talked to the CEO of Hotjar and we got in touch. And then I applied for a position then when I burnt out launching my first agency.
I mean, having people on podcasts and LinkedIn Lives is a great way to get jobs with them, I guess. So I am going to reach out to you and see if I can come work for you at some point, just as an FYI.
Okay, sure.
And if somebody wants to like dig more into like radical differentiation, where would you suggest they start?
So signing up to my newsletter on everyonehatemarketers.com is probably the place to go. I post around once a week there. My podcast as well, the same name, where I do solo episodes on it. The book Zag as well is really good on this. It talks a lot about the topic I talk about. Purple Cow by Seth Godin, even though it's extremely not practical, but it makes you think. And like there is stuff that he says that I still reread because it's just so fucking powerful. This guy is just, I know some people don't like him, but I don't care. It's just, he's a fucking genius in my head. Different by Young Mi Moon is a great book as well. Yep. I would avoid stuff like the 22 immutable laws of marketing and position differentiator die, which are very fluffy when it comes to actual laws. They are neither laws nor immutable, and they, I think, make a lot of confusion when it comes to messaging and positioning. Communication is what you do once you have clarity on who you seek to serve and what's the differentiation. But they make this kind of weird connection between the two, as if talking about your heritage is a position. It's not. Like talking about your creation story is not either. Like you need a good fucking product. Anyway, I could rant for hours, so I'm gonna stop.
You've totally thrown me off for my last question. So what are you most excited about in marketing at the moment? And like, what is next in marketing? I know it's a big bullshitty type question, but kind of wheel out the crystal ball and tell me where you think it's heading.
It's heading towards simplification. I think people understand. Like I can see, even though I'm in my own bubble and I follow people who agree with me and believe in the same thing, I can see a turn back into foundations and first principles of marketing from a lot more people than I used to see, which is great. And I'm hoping that the next generation of marketers are going to be being able to see the bullshit pretty quickly and understand that it's all about the market that you seek to serve. That starts with that. That's what marketing truly is. It's a generous act. It's not a selfish act. And that's, I get emails sometimes at the end of each year saying, what's your prediction for next year? And I say exactly the same thing, which is nothing will ever change because people are people. Humans are humans. We are the fruit of billions of years of evolution. And it's not because of a new fucking social network appearing next year that is going to change anything about the way we should market. So tactics, yeah, maybe you need to change your ways, but diagnosis and strategy, that's something that is not there to change.
Dude, that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. We should hang out again at some point. We should bring Joe as well. By the beer.
And I want to say something here. Thanks for doing this. It's not easy to do what you're doing. Thanks for spending that much time like talking to other people and spreading like knowledge like that and all of that. I really appreciate it. And I know people watching appreciate that as well. So thank you for doing this as well. I know how tough it is.
Thank you very much. If anybody wants to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do it? So like download, like get on the newsletter list, and I'd highly recommend it. But if they want to like connect with you on a personal level, like LinkedIn, Twitter, don't connect with them. Don't connect with them. An angry Frenchman. Leave them alone.
Yeah. Leave me alone. Now, LinkedIn, cool. I post a lot. I post every day at the moment.
And when does the next cohort open?
In September.
So people need to get on the list before then.
But I'm gonna launch a kind of a group coaching before that.
Perfect. Good. Any parting wisdom for a Friday afternoon for everybody?
Just focus on people. Just like honestly, once you have that as a foundation, things get easier.
Dude, thank you very much for doing that. And everybody else, I won't see you next week. My wife is making me take some time off on holiday, but we will be back the following week with Nikita from Partner Stack. So everybody, see you next week. Thanks, Louis.
Thank you.